Good evening. It's Sunday yet again, end of the week, end of the weekend, and we get ready for another mad week, no doubt, in the world of the UK. Since last time I've come on, there's been an awful lot happened, which we'll touch on tonight. We're going to be discussing the incident in Liverpool, which I still have my doubts about. I'll be interested to see what my guests have got to say about that. We'll be talking about two appeal cases that are taking place. One of Tommy's, and he's out, and one of Lucy Connelly, and she's still where she is. And Julia will be looking after that one as well. So Julia and Richard will be joining me tonight. So let's get them on the panel, and then we will crack on. Julia, how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thanks. Are you okay?
All good, all good. Rich, you're on mute, mate.
Hi. Hi, Mark. Hi, Julia.
Hello.
You
there.
made it.
I made it. I'm still sweating. I cycled home.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, so just saying, we'll touch on a few things tonight. We haven't been on for a couple of weeks now, for whatever reason that is. I want to talk about the incident in Liverpool today, what happened there, what your two guys' views on that are. I'll be just interested to hear. So I want to talk about Labour and Keir Starmer's backtracking on a lot of things at the moment, notably the winter fuel and his hardline talking on immigration, which seems to be a change of tact. And it all seems to be based after Reform's success in the local elections, but we'll get your view on that as well. Israel and Hamas war continues. Ukraine-Russia war continues. So we'll touch on that as well. So let's start off if we can. And if you're watching, if you want to get involved, then please do so. If you give me your comments, I will try and get as many on screen as I can, and we'll answer them as best we can. If you just want to have your say, then please do so at any point during this show. And if you want to come and join us on camera as well, what I'll do is I'll put the link to the studio in the comments. So just click on that and you can come and join us. So the incident in Liverpool, I'll come to you first, Julia. Before I say what I'm going to say, I just want to get your overview of it, on what you thought about it. Do you believe all what we're being told? Does it all add up right for you? What was your initial thoughts, etc.?
When it first happened, the night it happened, it was quite a shock, and I thought, my God, what's happened there? That must have been an accident, or something like that. Then when I looked at it, and there were so many different videos, I actually saw two cars involved. One had its back window smashed. Then the car that the what's he called? Somebody Doyle. What's his name?
Paul, yeah.
Paul Doyle. That he was supposedly driving. That took off in front of the car with the window that was already smashed. Then I saw some other videos, loads flying around. And I didn't actually see him exit the car. And I was thinking, how? I did see a man running away, though, with a pair of black shorts on and a white T-shirt, like running in the opposite direction. And I just thought that I can't believe what we're being told, because it just doesn't sit right with me. There's something not right, although I can't put my finger quite on it. And that man that was rolling around on the floor, that had nothing. He had clearly nothing to do with the car getting somebody driving the car into a load of people. It's horrendous. The people that went there must have been thinking that could have been me, or it must have been awful. And I do hope that all the people involved are actually all right, because we haven't really heard anything about them, have we? I don't believe what we've
heard a lot about anything, to be honest. Yeah. There must have been scores of people there that have information on it, which I haven't seen anybody step forward that was actually there. We've seen a few videos, we've seen a few stills. Yeah. I put a post out basically questioning an awful lot of things, which I'll stick with, and I still remain the same. Whether they've released this guy's name, Paul Doyle, he's supposedly what age did they say it was? 52?
53, I think.
52, 53. Yeah. The person at the message looks nothing like the stills that I'm seeing online. There's so many weird things with the whole situation that I still don't believe what we're being told. I don't trust the mainstream media as far as I can kick them. But there's not an awful lot coming out of the whole situation where you can gather anything apart from they've arrested a guy called Paul Doyle, and nobody knows nothing about this guy. Nobody's come forward to say that they've spoken to it. The guy that was rolling about on the floor, by all accounts, he was trying to get to this guy that was driving, and he got himself arrested in the process. Richard, what was your initial thoughts when you saw all this? Richard?
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Julia. I was just going through X, getting updated on this, right? I haven't followed this too closely. By the way, it's not Richard, it's Rich.
Sorry, Rich.
People want to get rich with crypto. So it was early enough to get that name, right? But thank you, Mark. I'm with both of you. One is there's a lot of obfuscation and misdirection, misrepresentation, lack of certainty. So on the one hand, there's some photos of a guy who's looks like could be an Arab, Middle East guy. And then other people are saying, no, this isn't the guy. This is being posted by racists and everything. And then, this guy, Paul Doyle, 53 years old. And then there's a video where nobody actually sees the police. He's actually not been seen pulled out of the car. And then the attack marries or mirrors the sort of strategy that's been used by other people in Europe, or the Glasgow airport attack a few years ago. Is it a false flag? I don't know. Does it have the hallmarkings of a false flag? Well, possibly, yes. And has the British government carried out false flags before? To fulfill on particular political agendas. And I think, I agree with both of you that we can't trust what's been put out. Cannot trust what's been put out. I'm just going to slight detour here, if I may, Mark. Right?
Yeah, go
on. When Trump challenged Ramaphosa in the presidential office about the murder of white farmers, and how the head of Malema, the head of EFF, a guy called Malema, kill the Boers, all of that stuff, right? And Ramaphosa saying, no, it's not happening. Then he plays this clip of all these scenes. Then I look at the mainstream media the following day, The Guardian, The Telegraph, all of them, that Trump reproducing fake news, fact-free fake news, a conspiracy theory. Now, if I haven't mentioned it before on this, I have mentioned it several times on my own videos. I joined the anti-apartheid movement when I was 18. I was brought up in Northwest London. I was appalled that this racist state where people are treated differently because of their skin color. No. But I found myself getting convinced, like maybe this is maybe it's not really happening. I've where I work, somebody new has come, a white South African joined our team. Then I've got a couple of really good white South African friends. I reached out to them. All three of them said it's going on. It's going on. They are, I think, 4,000 to 5,000 white people being killed in racist crimes by followers of Malema. Kill the Boer, kill the Boer. No. Now, I'm using that as examples like where even I didn't have this medical intervention that was all the rage a few years ago. I didn't, after 6 weeks, I stopped wearing a mask, right? I thought this is nonsense, right? I don't buy the lie about fractional reserve banking, which is why I got into Bitcoin and everything and gold and all that stuff, right? And yet in this instance, I'm supposed to just accept what the mainstream media are saying? Yeah. No, they have. Something I learned in social work, right? Guy beats up on his partner. That relationship ends, gets a new relationship, beats up on her. That relationship ends, gets a new relationship, beats up on her. And then he says to me, I don't do that anymore. I'm sorry, your track record ain't all that great. I need to see some definitive proof. So it's the same deal with the mainstream media. I need to see some definitive proof. Otherwise, I ain't going to trust them because they're not in service of us. They're in service of their paymasters.
Absolutely. As I said previously, mainstream. I don't trust anything the mainstream media say anymore, and that's radio, that's TV. I get my source of news from X mainly, because people put on
Yes.
new videos there, true representations, facts. Not always,
Actually, Mark,
but
forgive me
a
for
lot of the
interrupting.
time. Sorry, say again, Mitch.
Sorry, I said forgive me for interrupting you, right?
But you did it anyway.
I did it anyway, right? And then I asked for forgiveness. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I'm not in school. Excuse me, sir. As you were saying about not getting our news from mainstream media, well, we are the media. You know, there's the three of us, different demographics, all British, different genders, looking from different perspectives, shaped by own histories, our different political and religious and spirit-based backgrounds or whatever, right? And then we're doing this sort of analysis where we're looking all over the place and we're not in service of anyone other than what's going to work for people.
Yeah,
absolutely. My wife's South African, Rich. So I've been to South Africa many, many times. And what you hear, what goes on inside South Africa to what the mainstream media will tell us are two totally different things. I know what's going on in there. I'm certain there's a culling of white farmers over there. This has been going on for years. And even more so at the moment. You know, white people are desperate to get out of South Africa at the moment. That's why there's many South Africans that live amongst us, my wife being one of them. So I've been over there 5 times. It's quite unreal, actually. You talk about racism and things like that. It is a different world over there. If anybody that's not been to South Africa, you have the big cities like Cape Town, Johannesburg, and you have all the whites living in the centre in nice big houses, and then you have the blacks living in shanty towns around the big cities. There's definitely a divide. There's definitely racism that goes on, and it was a bit of an eye opener, to be honest. When I went over, I was like, "Wow, this is mad." Not a safe place. But then, where is safe anymore? I feel just as safe here than what I would do over there at the minute, and that's a hard thing to say, really, because this is the situation that we're in. Neil Price has joined us. Neil, nice to speak to you again, mate. He's from Wales, and he says the mainstream media went nuts over the Trump tapes, which is true as well. So just going back to this Liverpool incident, I put a massive post out. It gained a lot. There's about 1 million views and 1 million comments on it. And basically, then I got hit once this guy's name came out saying, "Oh, what are you going to say now? What are you going to say?" I'm saying exactly the same now. You've obviously gobbled up what the mainstream media are telling you, and you've run with it. That's great. You know, that's up to you. But I will not be that. And I've still got the same questions that I had when it first happened to what I have today, even though they've released his own name. He was the guy that got who said was driving was in combat trousers. There was a radio in the car. There were snipers up on rooftops. Now, people say that's a normal thing. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, have you ever heard that, Rich, of snipers being on top of roofs at big events? It was a football parade at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've been on loads and loads and loads of demos in London. If there were snipers, I didn't see them. And most of the demonstrations that I've been on have been peaceful. And this demonstration, we're not talking about a derby match. We're talking about people in Liverpool fans. Perhaps there are a few Evertonian fans whose partners support Liverpool or something, right? But having a party, it's a celebration. So why would you have snipers? And then there was the video of some guy changing the registration plate. What's that about?
Very strange. Very strange.
The whole setup is just completely strange. It doesn't make sense. And sadly, more than anything, because of Southport, I don't believe a word that Keir Starmer comes out with. Nothing.
Well, no, Julia, forgive me, right? Well, maybe not forgive me, right? I don't think it's just, I think you'll agree with me, it's not just because of Southport. It's like everything that comes out of Keir Starmer's mouth.
Absolutely. It's all bullshit. And I'm sorry for swearing on your podcast, Mark, but it literally is. Honestly, and talking about mainstream media, I was visiting my family a couple of weeks ago, and I walked into my mum's living room, and she said, "Isn't Donald Trump getting more and more like Hitler?" And I went, "Excuse me?" And she'd been watching the BBC. I'm sorry if you're listening, Mum, but she'd been watching the BBC, and I said, "You've been radicalised in a matter of a week since I was last here." And I said, "Turn that nonsense off. It's always in the background on silent, you know." And I said, "For God's sake, put GB News on, will you?"
Well, I
He's
don't know.
getting more and more
I
like
don't even know about GB News, right?
Well, that's better than BBC.
This
That's
is
all
true.
I
This
can
is true.
say.
I have the same from my family. That Trump is going to start. He's going to start wars everywhere. He's a fascist. Elon Musk did this. Never mind that I showed the photos of Kamala Harris doing this. You know, Hillary Clinton doing this. Scholz, the former German prime minister, doing this. Right? It's just a way of waving to the crowd. One hand signal does not a Nazi make. Right? It's a little bit more to it. And then that he's going to be a fascist. The Guardian did this really, really great article shortly, a few weeks after Trump was elected. One is they stopped calling him, convicted criminal. Once he became president, they just said President Trump, right? But they did this really great article where they listed all these executive orders that he'd signed. This one about this and that and this and that. And there's two that they omitted from that list. He strengthened the First Amendment.
Yeah.
He's said federal officials, government officials, are banned from conspiring with social media and mainstream media companies in order to suppress the voice of Americans. Strengthening the First Amendment. He also strengthened the Second Amendment, preventing states and judges from using regulations to limit Americans' right to bear arms. And just on the Constitution says the government shall not. So it's not what people can do. No, people already have that. It's what the government, it's limits on the government. So these two actions that strengthen the American Constitution that are absolutely anti-authoritarian, no mention, omitted from the discourse. Nobody knows. So no wonder Trump is a fascist. He strengthens freedom of speech and the right to bear arms, like all fascists do.
The mainstream media they're very good at painting their own narrative, going with the script, what they're told, etc., etc. They're all in on it together, and I believe that wholeheartedly. Neil says the Liverpool attack looks like a failed black swan. Maybe the driver lost his nerve, and the pictures coming out are all different, and the mainstream media are not covering this properly. It's a cover-up. That's the way I believe it. It's not being covered properly. We've heard nothing from it since it happened. Nothing too much about Paul Doyle, nothing about the guy, anybody that was there. There must be people there that saw more than what is being put out there. That's why I've been searching and I've been looking on X to see if I can find anybody that taken videos from the day. So there's just nothing there, and it's so strange. And I do believe it's a false flag. I do believe something went wrong. And you're quite right. There's just too many things that don't add up. So to all the people on the left going, "Oh, now what you're saying, what you say," I say the same. I say the same. I will not believe a word the mainstream media put out. I never will from here on in. And I think people need to start opening their eyes to things like this, because it's going to be more and more things like this are going to be happening. Let's face it.
There's no excuse now for ignorance, I don't think.
Absolutely.
Because I do believe until X went free speech, I think we were quite ignorant in a lot of things because we weren't being told them, because nobody was allowed to tell us. Well, that's like North Korea. That's what Kim Jong-un's like. So, are we in a dictatorship? Because it certainly feels like it.
Well, this is what this is why governments hate X, or Twitter as it formerly was. They hate it because people come on here and they speak their mind, they tell the truth, they put clips and videos that would never be seen the light of day through mainstream media outlets, whether that be on TV, radio, the papers, etc. My advice is this: just don't believe anything and do your own research, because the more research I've done on different things, the more I find, and and it's not hard to find these things. So I'd be interested to see what people are watching this, what you thought about that. Neil's had his say, but let's just move from there a second, and let's move on to Julie's segment, which she's going to leave for us. So since we were last on, there's been a couple of appeals that have taken place within the court system. One of which was Tommy Robinson, which obviously went in his favour, and one of which was Lucy Connelly, which did not go in her favour. What I will say is this on Tommy Robinson. When he came out, I was actually quite shocked to see the pictures of him. He definitely lost weight, and he definitely didn't look what I thought he was going to look out for based on what I've previously said. So apologies for that, really, because he does look like he's had a real rough time in there, and he's out. And let's just see how that pans out. Hopefully, he stays out and does the good that he was doing before, and doing the same things that he was doing before he went into prison. I don't know how that's all going to play out. It's certainly not something that I'm going to be getting involved in, but he won his appeal, and that was based on the fact that he took down the documentary that he had up. It makes you wonder if he would have done that from the start, would he have spent so long in prison? Possibly not. But he certainly got his point about that silence video has been seen by millions of people.
160 million.
It's ridiculous. So this is a story which will be ongoing, I'm sure. But Julia, you wanted to touch on Lucy Connelly's story. Obviously, Lucy Connelly is quite close to me because she's in for the same thing that I was, and it was online stuff. I'm sat here, and she's still languishing in jail.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to come to Tommy Robinson, right?
We come to Tommy Robinson. Yeah. We can come to Tommy Robinson. Julia's just going to lead on Lucy Connelly.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what I think is a chilling reality in Britain, where we have a two-tier justice system and the erosion of free speech, the complete erosion. And in fact, did we ever have it, really? Lucy Connelly, a mother and former childminder, is still in prison, serving a 31-month sentence for a tweet. A tweet. Crikey Moses. Yes, it was awful. It was quite crass. It was quite angry. But she removed it within, I think, a couple of hours. And the backlash that brought, obviously, she was talking about the Southport killings. Well, not so much killings, but more slaughterings, and it was awful, and it affected everybody. It was a horrible, horrible day, that it really was. And we've all now learned more about the perpetrator. But at that point in time, she was really angry. And like I said, her comments were crass and offensive, really, to read. But Howie, 31 months behind bars. Compare that to like paedophiles, and you've seen them on X, domestic abusers, or even those caught with terrorist materials who've walked free or got lighter sentences. Hugh Edwards, convicted of possessing indecent images of children, he avoided jail, and a child rapist dodged prison due to overcrowding. Yet Lucy, a first-time offender, sits rotten in a cell. This is two-tier justice, where words online are punished harsher than actual violent crimes. And what about free speech? It's gone. It's absolutely gone. Did we ever have it? I'm not so sure. Lucy's case shows the state can jail you for an opinion that you have, however poorly expressed. If it offends the wrong people, you've had it. Her tweet didn't cause violence. It was posted before any riots even started. But the courts, backed by a government obsessed with control, made her the scapegoat. That's what happened. They conned people into pleading guilty. If you plead guilty, it'll be much quicker and blah, blah, blah. And even the duty solicitors did that. That, to me, is really wrong. And I hope there's something they can do about it when they come out.
That's the key thing. That's the key thing, Julia, is the guilty plea. That is the key to it all, is the guilty plea. Once they've gone guilty, there's not an awful lot that any of them can do that are in prisons at the moment that are got any chance of getting out before they've done half their term, which is diabolical, and it shouldn't have happened. And I know for a fact that people were coerced. I was coerced.
Of course they were.
Everybody I've spoken to, Cameron Bell, etc., etc. But the fact is, she went guilty. And can you imagine if they let her out? Then you've got Wayne O'Rourke, you've got loads of other people that are in jail. It would have sent a tsunami through, and all those people that have been jailed for similar stuff. Let's get the facts right. The people that were rioting and blowing, setting hotels on fire, they deserve to be there.
That's different. But a tweet.
But
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Politicians like Keir Starmer claim to support free speech, but only when it suits them. Say the wrong thing and you're a political prisoner, as some now are even calling Lucy, and I do think she is, just as I think Tommy Robinson was. Even the White House is watching now, concerned about our infringements of freedom of expression. This isn't the Britain I knew when I grew up in, a land of liberty where you could speak your mind. I've heard it so many times. People say, remember when you used to say it's a free country? Nobody ever says that now. Nobody. Today, you risk jail for a tweet while serious criminals walk free. We, as the public, must demand fairness, proportionality, and the return of free speech. Because if Lucy Connelly can be locked up for words, what's stopping them coming for you next? If you say something that they disagree with, because I'm quite often say something I know the government would disagree with, but I thought we had a democracy where we had free speech. And all I'm saying now is, no, we haven't. If we agree with what they say, that's fine. But if we don't, we've had it. We've absolutely had it. And that's my take on
it
free
works.
speech.
His plan worked. It did shut people up. People were too scared to say
it did, exactly. That's
thing.
exactly what they wanted. And now she's been used as an example. Look what happened to her. Do you know what I mean? If you stand there and you say this, because it could easily happen to you.
Yeah.
And it makes people frightened. I've been frightened for years, not to follow certain people on X or Facebook well, Facebook's rubbish, actually. I just share dogs that I lost now because poor buggers, somebody needs to look out for them. But Facebook, apart from that's just a load of nonsense. All you see is people's dinners and who cares? I don't care I care what Tommy Robinson's eating. That's different because he's just come out and he's got to be celebrating all the nice food he's got now. Did you want to touch on Tommy Robinson, Rich?
Yeah.
Because
so just my understanding is that he was kept in solitary confinement for most, if not all, of his
all of it
sentence. All of it, right? Now, that's considered. My understanding of that also is that it's considered torture. It's a cruel and unusual punishment forbidden in the United Nations Charter. One of the things that we all have to do. Now, this is regardless of whether I agree with Tommy Robinson on this issue or that issue or anything, right? But he is a British citizen. He is a human being, right? One of the things that we all have to do is we have to speak up and reference the 1688 Bill of Rights. Yes. This cannot be repealed by Parliament. It set Parliament up as the representatives of the people. And one of the articles, this is in effect, that excessive bail ought not to be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. So to put somebody in solitary confinement for I don't know how many months, well, that's a cruel and unusual punishment.
I know. We covered that, didn't we, Mark? Quite a few.
We did. My take on that was that that was by his request, Rich. I don't think they just literally took him and put him in solitary. I do believe now that he was in solitary confinement based on the look of it. I don't think he was eating well based on the look of him. And I don't think he had any kind of time which
a razor.
Being a prison officer, I knew that certainly that you just can't treat people certain ways because this is the country that we live in, right?
You've got to be humane with them, Mark. We've got to treat them
humanely. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is they can't risk putting somebody like Tommy Robinson onto a general population wing because it would have been mayhem. Something could have happened to him. So he's offered a position and he's taken. I would do the same. If I was going into prison as somebody like, it was bad enough for me being an ex-prison officer and speaking up against Muslims and things. I had a target on my back when I went in. So imagine what it's like for somebody of Tommy Robinson's stature or reputation. But I do believe he was given a choice, and that's where he wanted to be. So that's what all I'll say on that. But you're quite right that even the worst criminals in the world still have rights. And this is
and the rights where they come from, because the coronation oath, which this former friend of his former friend was Jimmy Savile, this particular monarch isn't abiding by, is that he's going to uphold the laws, statutes and customs.
But the thing is though, Rich, he's forgotten that he's the king of the leader of the Church of England, man. He's out there practicing Ramadan and things. What about the harvest festivals and stuff like that, and Easter? what sort of king is he? Is it? I think Keir Starmer's leading him astray, you know, and I think he's a fool for following what. I think this is all Keir Starmer's plan.
I think they're in the same
That's
club.
what I think.
I wouldn't give Keir Starmer that much credit that he's able to order Charles around. I think they're playing for the same team, and there's somebody above them ordering both of them about.
There's got to be somebody else behind them. Absolutely. They're just puppets, them two.
But I just want to say, Mark, and Julia, because I think there's a particular demographic that you have access to that I don't. Because the political coverage that I do tends to be more international and monetary based and everything, right? I do occasional British videos. Plus, also, I think you being Christian, both of you being white, and the political stance that you take, which I'm not opposed to, by the way, just to make clear, right? I want a Britain that works for everyone. That means we can't be playing these divide and rule games, right? Splitting everybody. We can't have open borders because then you don't have a nation, right? It destroys everything. You can't have trans and all that business and the promotion of the sexualization of children. And you can't be spending all this money on killing people abroad when we're not taking care of our own here. We have to keep going back to the Bill of Rights. It is the enshrinement of our natural God-given rights that no one can take away from us. God gave them to us. And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. There are natural rights. They're already there.
We've got Magna Carta, and that stood for the test of time for over a millennia.
Yeah.
We've got
all these people who've pleaded guilty. No, you should plead not guilty. Join the Free Speech Union, which, by the way, I've joined.
I've joined as well.
My son had a particular issue when he was working in a fast food restaurant, that there was a person of indeterminate gender, and my son, being a devout Muslim, wouldn't use particular pronouns, said, look, you can't change what God creates. God creates man, God creates woman. You don't change that just because you feel like it. And the Free Speech Union were absolutely brilliant with him. Really gave us a lot of support. But we have to say, no, not guilty. Because this comes into the issue of sovereignty. So in English law, and I'm still learning about this, no one is above the law. We are all equal before the law, and we are sovereign. I can do, and Blair started turning this around, and Starmer's just taken it another level. We can do anything that we want, as long as we don't cause loss, harm, or injury to another. We're free because we're sovereign. Now, if I'm sovereign, I got to have sovereignty over my family. I got to have sovereignty over my body, my energy, my labor, and sovereignty over what comes out of my mouth. I don't have sovereignty if I don't have free speech.
Yeah.
Now,
you should be able to say what you like, even though it might offend people. You should be able to say whatever you like. Although some of it might not be very nice for people, it might be offensive. But remember that old saying, sticks and stones and all that. We've gone I feel like we're living in some kind of Alice in Wonderland book.
Well, as long as I don't cause loss, harm, or injury to another. So if I say something that is fraudulent or libelous, well, there'll be a consequence for that.
Fair enough.
But if I express an opinion, I don't like that about you. I don't like that about you. I don't agree with that. As long as I'm not calling people inciting to violence, because that's causing harm.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? The world's just gone crazy.
The minute people stop talking, speaking out, and telling it how it is, that's it. That's when it is game over. We're nearly there now, to be honest. It's a concerted effort to keep people quiet, to put people in their lane. What's going on in the UK with the people that are coming in and what's happening, it's meant to divide us. It's all part of the bigger picture, in my opinion. But free speech, it's not, you're quite right, it's not there, but it kind of is still there whilst we've got apps and platforms like X where people can.
Why they're still here.
But we're close. I think we're close. And this is what they want. So, I don't doubt for 1 minute that at some point they will be having a concerted effort to try and get X banned in the UK. That'll be the next.
Yeah, they will. That absolutely will.
It
That's
won't
next on
work.
the hit list.
I don't think it'll work. There are, and here I make reference to the things that are happening at the international level, including with regards to tariffs and the game and what Trump is out to do. So there is a particular reason, I think, why Trump has said 10% tariffs on Britain, 20% on the EU, and then 50%, and then Ursula von der Leyen called and said, look, can you give us a break? Okay, you got till July the 9th to work something out. Right? Now, the reason why he's doing that, I think, is to cleave Britain away from Europe.
I hope so.
And there's a bit of history behind that. If you want, I can go into that, right? But to cleave England away from Europe, and then if Europe were to say, I saw something today on Zero Hedge that they want to impose tariffs or fines on American social media companies. Well, the American social media companies, they give a lot of political donations to the Democrats and the Republicans. They're not going to go for that. Think after what the ties that Elon Musk and X and SpaceX have with the US government, you think that the European Union going to get away with banning X in Europe?
Well, they're certainly going to try.
He sent the United States has sent a small party of government officials to investigate freedom of speech in Britain, and I think, or the destruction of it, and I think Trump and his government have to take on the authoritarianism in Britain and in Europe. They have to attack it for their own survival.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to come out. The mainstream media is going to come up with the same lies as before Russiagate. The same people that tried to kill him before, they're going to try and kill him for his own survival. He has to do this. He has to defeat the ogre that's been out to destroy him.
Yeah, look, Trump's a businessman first and foremost. So this tariff thing was always about renegotiation for better terms for America. It wasn't about sticking with the tariffs that he'd given out. It was bringing people to the table so he could renegotiate better terms, and it's worked. The economy there nosedived for a bit, but now it's back on the up again. So yeah, interesting indeed.
Very clever.
Yeah, he is. He's a businessman at the end of the day. It's all about the.
Julia, how can you say that? He's Orange Man bad.
Orange Man bad. Very good. I want to touch on Labour and Keir Starmer.
Must you, Mark?
We don't have to, but I feel like we must. There's been a definite shift in rhetoric. There's been a definite shift in policy, and there's been a definite shift in what Keir Starmer is saying in public, at least. Based, and this has all come after Reform's success, if you like, on the local elections. Which I'll let you lead with this, because I know you've got your own opinions on what's going on. But can you see that change of rhetoric? Can you see that? And I put this to you. Was it yesterday we were talking, and you said it's all a smokescreen? So,
absolutely,
your views,
absolutely, it's all a smokescreen. So, Starmer, from when I started following his political career, his political rise, which was really when he, when I joined the Labour Party in order to support Jeremy Corbyn. So, I would say I'm formally of the left, but the liberty-loving left. And I don't know if left and right apply anymore. I just want liberty and freedom and sovereignty for people, right? It's no longer about that for me. It's just about freedom and sovereignty. So I joined the Labour Party to support Jeremy Corbyn, and I voted for Brexit. And then I saw what Keir Starmer was doing, where he positioned himself. That man said that Jeremy Corbyn is my friend. We're very, very good terms. And yes, we're going to have Brexit, even though I voted Remain. And I saw that what I thought was what seemed to me like a Blairite coup against Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
How the right wing within Labour were out to destroy Jeremy Corbyn completely, with the backing of the mainstream media, because they talk about, only such a bad result at the election and everything. And then look at what Keir Starmer did recently, right? The worst ever. He can't be trusted at all. Here's a guy who gave a pass to, when presented information about Jimmy Savile's crimes. He gave a pass to Mohammed Al-Fayed when presented information about his crimes. He lied about Brexit completely. He lied about Jeremy Corbyn. As soon as he got into Parliament as the Prime Minister, he switched everything. Everything. I'm going to support the fishermen. I'm going to support the farmers. We're going to have heating allowance for the elderly, and then just lie. Now, the I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but hopefully there'll be new people watching as your channel grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. There's a particular concept within science called fractals. Fractals are self-repeating patterns. So the Norwegian coast, no matter what scale you look at it, whether it's outer space or from the sky, or you're standing on the coast looking between your feet, it's always crinkly. On any scale, it's always crinkly. Now, human behavior occurs in fractals.
Yeah.
So,
like the Mandelbrot set. It just goes on.
Yeah, it's a self-repeating pattern going on and on and on at different scales, right? So as a social worker, I work with a lot with domestic abuse, and I work with mostly men, sometimes women, mostly men who say to their partners, I'll tell you when you can go out. I'll tell you what you have to wear. I'll tell you who you can meet and how long you can go out for. I'll tell you what you can do. Don't worry about working for a living. I'm going to give you a little bit of pin money. Now, that's perpetrators of domestic abuse, but that's also the government during lockdown.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's for our own good. It's for our own good. Same conversation for our own good. Destroying our freedoms and our liberties for our own good. Aren't we lucky? So then one of the things about abusers is they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie. They have to lie and pretend to come over as credible. Yes, I've heard you now. And then they carry on doing the same shit as before. Starmer has no interest, none whatsoever, in changing his policies at all. He can't, because he's not in charge.
Somebody else has got to be above him, because he's such a weak man, and you can see that. Did you see him boxing? That punch bag. I just cringed. I thought, my God, I wouldn't have even offered to put the boxing gloves on if I'd been him. He should have stayed well clear of that. What a shown up. I just looked at him and thought, he is an idiot, an absolute idiot. And the fact that he's got such a massive majority with such a low amount of people who voted tells you a lot. 80% of this country don't like him. And I wish that 80% had got off their backsides and voted. I wish they had, but people are losing faith in voting, aren't they? Because which is it's just a uni party nonsense. And then if you don't go with the current narrative, you just get a smear campaign against you. Yeah, this, you've done that, you've done the other. And it's so obvious now because we've got the likes of X, TikTok to some respects as well. I get a lot of news off TikTok while it's up, because I mean, I think I've been banned off TikTok 3 times now, and I've had to set up 3 different accounts for hate speech and too many violations. But they literally weren't. And as soon as I was putting videos up, they were getting brought down. And I'm on my 3rd account now. And I just, even TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube to some extent, they have to abide by the rules. And I'm telling you now, this year, Keir Starmer will do something to X where they'll have to follow the rules in Britain, or don't be in. They'll try. They'll try. Honestly, there'll be some big thing happens, and it'll all be because somebody said something on X, and that's it. It's banned now. Bet you any money that's what they try.
I think they'll try. I don't think they'll succeed at all.
Yeah, that's why I sign up to people's email addresses and stuff, because I think if X goes down, if our horrible government just takes it down, at least we can communicate with each other, and they won't even know what we're saying. But that brings a problem in itself. That does take you underground, and can cause far right. And I think they're trying to cause riots this year. I do. I think that they're up and down with things that they're doing with the jury and people going to prison or not going to prison, all the immigrants pouring in and pouring in. They're waiting. This country is like a tinderbox waiting to go up. And one tiny little spark could send that. And it nearly was last Sunday. Was it Sunday?
I'm
It was Sunday. Do you know what I mean? I honestly think.
100%.
And then they're bringing out these armoured vehicles, like to show off, look what we've got against you. Do they realise what they're doing to us? I don't even, well, I do think they've got an idea, and I think they think it's funny. And you know something? It's anything but. Living in this country now is so oppressive. It feels so oppressive. And it literally sometimes feels like that book 1984. And you wonder, you know, when I've been watching Handmaid's Tale recently, and I'm thinking, that could actually happen. That could literally actually happen in a country like ours. It's ripe for a takeover because we've got an idiot in charge, and I hope he is watching at some point. I hope he sees this.
So Sam's joined us, a Patriot designer, good friend of mine. He says it's not even because people can't be bothered to vote, it's rigged. With local elections, there were so many recounts due to the lefty insiders ditching votes, and there's videos of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of with you on that, Sam, to be honest.
I am.
Yeah.
But it seems like Keir Starmer has been interviewed recently, and he's basically said that his main competitor now is Nigel Farage and Reform. You made a comment the other day, Rich, and you said Farage isn't the answer. So I was always going to ask you this evening why you think that is. But my opinion is you can't out Farage. You know, Farage is going to do his thing, and it just seems a bit at the minute that Keir Starmer is trying to say anything and do anything which is going to appease those people that are currently voting for Reform. But why isn't Nigel Farage the answer, Rich, in your opinion?
Because I think he's one of the mechanisms how the Europeans, Amsterdam and Brussels and the City of London, gamed the system. So I said that when Boris Johnson resigned and Sunak came to power, I said in my videos, Sunak is going to do a deliberately awful job, and that's going to hand Keir Starmer a massive majority, and he's going to be unstoppable. And one of the things you said, Julie, about him being weak, I mean, he not only is he physically weak, he's politically weak.
Yeah.
You know, I got interested in politics in the mid to late 80s, and I remember political heavyweights like Margaret Thatcher. I didn't agree with her at the time, but she could hold her own. People like Peter Shaw, Arthur Scargill, whether or not you agreed with them, they rose through on account of their merits because they were able to speak passionately and present their ideas. Starmer didn't win his position. It was given to him through rigging the system, you know, getting rid of the opposition, having the Labour central office have all these blow-in MP candidates that didn't rise from local ranks, who were just going to do whatever they were told to do. Starmer's done a purge of the belligerent, liberty-loving left wing, like Jeremy Corbyn, marginalised Diane Abbott, you know, the people who are actually going to speak up for the sake of liberty. So he's completely weak. But what they do, and witness how the machinations they've done in Germany, in Romania, that they're going to do in Poland, they're going to do the same here. So they're lining Nigel Farage up, I suspect, to take over from Keir Starmer. He looks plausible, but this is where I'm suspect about Nigel Farage. He's not talking about deporting illegal immigrants. That's got to be done. Criminals come in. You don't, okay, you can stay. By the way, for people who don't know, I was born in Pakistan. I came to this country when I was 5. My dad had a job that he interviewed it for, came with my mum and my brother and my sister. We were settled here, lived responsible lives. And here I am, married to a beautiful, wonderful Scottish woman, right? But we came here legally. There was a need. In Pakistan, by the way, I saw something today. If somebody comes in illegally, 10-year prison sentence. You into Pakistan illegally, 10-year prison sentence. Here, come over on the boat, 1,000 people today, I heard, right? or yesterday or something. You get hotel accommodation, you get free food, a mobile phone, a nice little allowance. Meanwhile, the elderly women living down the street, those old biddies,
starving and freezing
cold in the winter, and nothing for them, nothing for the poor, distressed Britons that I'm working
that's
with.
making people angry. That
Absolutely,
is making
but
people angry.
it's there to divide and rule us.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to have us fighting each other and to destroy English culture and English tradition and the Christian faith. No, fuck off. We're destroying it.
Yeah, no, it feels awful, you know.
Sorry, Julia, excuse me, Julia, back to the question about Nigel Farage, right? And Mark, thank you so much for inviting me, because normally I just listen to other people. I didn't know I had all this in me, right? So he doesn't want to deport illegal immigrants. Richard Tice has connections with Pfizer. There's what Andrew Bridgen said that Nigel Farage said when Bridgen presented him with evidence of those medical interventions and how they'd hurt people.
Yeah.
And now this is hearsay, but Bridgen is reliable. He's proved himself to be reliable. That Farage said, if you know what's good for you, you'll leave this alone, right? Then there's how Nigel Farage, his U-turn on the Ukraine-Russia war, the fact that he's not, and I was in recorded a video with Tom Luongo and Alex Craner. We talked about this, and I'm actually going to post this in a few days' time. We talked about Nigel Farage, the fact that Farage is no longer connected to Trump.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, like Trump may have woken up and ostracized him, or who knows what happened, right? But he's no longer connected. And then there's how he has treated Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe, not that he had the same politics, but he was outspoken, like Galloway, like Bridgen, in standing up for people. So so he's now been ostracized. No, wait a minute. That's what people want. People want what Rupert Lowe is standing for. They want a restoration of family. They want power to be to go back to the people and not live under this parliamentary tyranny that's going to micromanage our lives. So that's why I say, and it's just what the bureaucrats, the European elites that are lording over us, this is what they do. They set it all up.
Yeah. Neil's commented, Rich, and he said the Trump team smelt weakness on Farage back in January. Tim Pool covered it. So that might be a worthwhile watch. I was a Reform member.
Likewise.
I've cancelled my membership. I'm no longer a member. I'm a member of the
Me
Homeland
too,
now.
Mark.
I think nationalism is the only way forward, personally. It's a bit extreme, but at the same time, it's necessity in the situation we find ourselves. But I want to put a question to both of you. So if there was general election tomorrow, first of all, would you vote? And second of all, who would you vote for, Julia?
Definitely I would vote, and I would drag as many people as I could to vote as well. I would definitely, if there was a candidate of UKIP, I would vote for UKIP without a shadow of doubt. Although I know that's splitting the right, but I can't go with Nigel Farage now because of what happened with Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Simple as, that's it. Don't trust him. Lost his trust then.
Okay. Yeah. Rich?
And just on the Rupert Lowe, it was that, because they managed to sideline and get rid of George Galloway and Andrew Bridgen with all sorts of shenanigans in the general election in those constituencies.
Yeah.
Only getting what, 6% of the vote all of a sudden, or 3%. And then Galloway, the ballot box is turning up out of the blue. I did vote at the last general election. Oh my God, my family and friends are so upset with me. I'm this far right racist white supremacist. What can I do, eh? What can I do? We're all white supremacists now.
We are.
I voted Reform.
So did I.
In the last, I won't again. I don't know if they're going to stand where I live. I would vote for Workers' Party or the Heritage Party. And Workers' Party, I don't agree with their monetary policies, the Workers' Party and stuff, because I've now learnt about sound money. But Galloway, foolish though he was to have the injections and go along with lockdown, he has turned around, and he is socially conservative, for family, for faith, for freedom.
To be fair, I've listened to him a lot lately, and quite a lot of what he's saying I actually agree with now, which I never thought would happen.
And he's anti-war. And then I had the privilege of interviewing David Curtin.
Oh, he's good.
And I met David Curtin on the pro-freedom demos during lockdown. He was on every single one. So he's been on the right side of history from the start.
Yeah.
And he represents the sort of traditional conservatism that I think Margaret Thatcher stood for, that I railed against, that please God, can we have her back?
Well, this
is how bad Keir Starmer is. I'd rather have Thatcher than him.
Any day. The one thing about George Galloway I can't get my head around is watching him drink milk from a saucer on telly, pretending to be a cat. So I can't take anything.
I know.
It's serious.
Another way of looking at it is the guy's just game. He's
kudos out with that.
No. He's just game.
Rich, are you heading to London on June the 14th to go and see Bonnie Blue?
See what?
Bonnie Blue. Have you seen it? Yeah, June the 14th. June the 14th. She's planning on sleeping with 2,000 men.
I just want to remind you, Mark, of that T-shirt that you're wearing.
Yes.
Right?
And I won't be going, Rich.
In his name, no.
You know, when she gets older, when she gets to be about 50, I think she'll look back on her life and be disgraced.
Do you think so? I don't think she will. I think she's wired differently to everybody else. I mean,
no, I really do. Because that other one as well. What do you call that other one that's just like her?
Lily, somebody in it.
Yeah. The pair of them. But the thing is, I'm sitting here advocating for women's rights week in, week out, and trying to get people to see why Islam isn't so good for women's rights. Not all Islam, but many parts of it. And I worry about that coming in the future. And there she is saying, come and sleep with me. I'm here. You know, Lizzie Gizabit lying there on the bed and all these men coming in. And I just think, what is that sending? What message is that sending to these blokes that are coming from abroad? Quids in here. Let's get to England. Oh, she makes me sick, actually.
She does, and the guys that turn up to these events, they're just as retarded as what she is, to be honest. I want to finish on. This is more for Rich, if I'm honest, because I've been looking at your page, Rich, and I've seen you commenting on quite a few things in a couple of podcasts that you've done. Obviously, we've got two wars raging at the moment, and others. But Ukraine and Russia, which seem to have stepped up a gear today. Ukraine have gone and bombed warplanes from Russia with the drone attack, one of the biggest attacks since the war began there. So that's bubbling away. And the fact that Trump seems to be losing his not friendship, because it wasn't friendship, but he talked up of Putin rather, but now he seems to be going the other way from it. He's singing a different tune to what he was before, so that's going to be interesting how that plays out. But I've seen a post of yours, Rich, basically saying about a genocide that's happening in Israel, Palestine. Can I just get your views on where you stand with the Israel-Hamas war, and those comments that you made about a genocide taking place? Everybody's got their own views on this thing, and I have mine, and I'll share them with you if you want. And I'm sure Julia will give you her point of view. But I'm keen to get your understanding of where you're at with both wars, really. I mean, it's about time that they wrap these up, aren't they? Because one false move from either one of these countries, and then we could all be heading to put our helmets.
Scary.
Yeah, it is scary. It is.
Yeah, well, one is I draw a distinction between Judaism and Zionism. One is a political project that started in the 19th century by a guy called Theodor Herzl from Eastern Europe, I consider Israel to be a colonial project of the City of London. So when the French and the British broke up the Ottoman Empire, they then drew straight lines across the Middle East, across the Levant. But they did it in such a way that the British always do when they leave territories, that they create in a way to create division. So Kurdistan, the Kurds didn't get their own nation. Kurds are split between Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. So then the British, MI6, can go and stoke up trouble, distress in any of those nations in order to further those political objectives. And the British are masters at this. They did this with in Northern Ireland. They left Northern Ireland as this festering sore that they could then use to keep Irish people divided. Like Catholics and Protestants can't live together. Really? They live together all over Europe. They did that with Kashmir. That, okay, we're going to leave Kashmir as a festering sore so that Indians and Pakistanis are forever fighting and never get united. So it's divide and rule. And then we saw how it played out recently when J.D. Vance is over in India to do a deal with India to move India closer to the United States. Well, wait a minute. India is the jewel in the crown of Britain's shadow empire. Because they didn't let go of India when they left, right? No, they're still pulling the strings in the background, which is why you've had all these ruling class, elite Indians and Pakistanis in power in the British Isles. Varadkar, Sooner, Priti Patel, Hamza Yusuf. They're all proxies. The British Empire was so large because it ruled through proxies. Then in 1917, Balfour issues this declaration, Lord Balfour, sponsored by Nathan Rothschild, to create the State of Israel. So they deposited these Zionists in this territory in order to keep creating dissent and stress and disruption to prevent people in that part of the world uniting so that the British and the Europeans can keep accessing the gas and the oil, because it's all about resources. It's all about collateral, which is what our debt-based financial system needs in order to, the banks need in order to keep functioning, to keep spinning off new debt. They need resources that they can lever up to create more fiat currency. So it's all in service of the City of London, which, by the way, is controlled by Amsterdam and Brussels. And you could watch my interview with Ian Burlingame where he goes into that and explains the history behind it, right? So that's the way that I see it. And my perspective is informed by an interview I did I think in December, after October the 7th, in December. My cousin in London, one of my cousins would go to these peace demos in London on Saturdays. And they said, well, we met these Orthodox Jews there, and there's a rabbi there, and he's opposed to what Israel are doing. And I said, well, set me up for an interview. And he wouldn't do it over Zoom, so I had to meet him in person. So I met him in London in a flat in Stamford Hill where there's a large Orthodox Jewish community. And he was the one wearing the Free Palestine badge, not me, the Muslim, right? And I said to him, I said, well, what? One, he said, listen, Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is a political project. Just like fascism, I could say, isn't Christianity. Or the authoritarian rule of the Taliban isn't Islam. Certainly not Sufi Islam, which is what my son practices, right? He said, Zionism, he said, this is an affront to Judaism. Judaism is about peace. It's about honoring people. It's about loving people. And I said to him, well, what's your solution? A two-state solution? He goes, no, not a two-state solution. One state for all people, where they all live as equal citizens. And then he said to me, do you know about where the largest Jewish community is outside of Israel in the Middle East? I said, no. He said, Iran. There are 30,000 Jews in Iran. He said they have a seat in parliament that's reserved for them, even though in terms of their population, they don't qualify. but so they have a voice. He said the Iranian government built a kosher hospital for them. And I've heard recently there's like 100 synagogues. They live peacefully. He said before Israel, we lived peacefully side by side, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. So
we caused this.
So
We did. It was our fault completely, and France.
Yeah,
you know, and then the United Nations.
Divide and rule, the colonialists.
They're doing that to us now. They're doing the exact same thing. It's like karma. It's come back to bite one the arse now.
It's not come back to bite one. They're bringing it back, Julia.
Yeah, it's going in
They're
circles.
bringing it back because the imperial. This is what happens with empires. Colonial empires start eating their own as they get weaker and weaker. And why they get weaker and weaker and weaker is because the debt, the government's credit card bill is so large they can't pay it off. So then what they need even more resources in create as collateral to lever up fiat currency and keep the whole system going. And which country in the world has the most resources of all? Any ideas?
Africa.
It's not a country.
Well, that continent.
It has a lot of resources, right?
Yeah.
There's a landmass, yes.
Yeah.
Russia.
Yeah, well, yeah.
$75 trillion worth of resources, right? But not only does Russia have the resources, it has the legal and the physical infrastructure to allow for those to be extracted.
Mm-hmm.
The Congo doesn't.
Yeah.
Nigeria doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Russia does. So then it's all about resources.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the collateral. So that's my take on it. And then the other take on it, because I'm a Muslim that goes to that when I did, I don't go, I haven't been for a few years now, but I went to Quaker meetings for 10 years. And the thing that appealed to me about Quaker meetings, one is they never asked me to become a Muslim. They knew I was Muslim. But because we're all God's children.
Yeah.
Who am I to pass judgment on you such that I have the right to take your life? I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You are Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, whatever, right? Jew. You're a child of God, just like me. I'm no better than you. And then I think we have to get to a point where we resolve our issues through dialogue.
That's never going to happen, though, sadly.
I'm not so sure, Julia. I'm a little bit optimistic. Otherwise, why bother?
I'm just a realist.
I don't know. Otherwise, why bother?
I think we're in dangerous times wherever, really. I think one false move from any given country, we could end up with a massive war, and I think that's paramount. That's evident throughout the world. Really, you can't really tell me anywhere that's safe in the world at the moment, whether that be through immigrants and civil wars or world wars taking place. Listen, we'll leave it now. We've been going on for over an hour now.
Safe.
Again, Rich,
Russia's pretty safe. Get yourself over to, but it's bloody cold. It's bloody cold.
Yeah. We'll be going for an hour and 10 minutes. Thanks for joining me again this week. Keep your eye on the news, and we'll be back at some point, and we can see what happens in the UK in the coming weeks. So, Rich, thanks for coming on, mate. I'm talking to Rich, by the way, this week. Actually, we're talking about the homeschooling thing that we discussed last time we were on. I was taking my boy out of school. Now, that, just so you know, everybody, that is still happening, but with a bit of persuasion from the wife, we've actually going to let him finish his year. So it's another 6 weeks. So he's going to do that, and then we're taking him out. The school have been notified, and I'll tell you about that conversation I had with the head teacher with Rich in the week. But Rich, thanks for joining me, mate. It's always a pleasure, and I will speak to you soon, mate.
Thank you,
Julia. As always, thank you so much for coming on. Keep your eye on the news, mate, and I'll send you a WhatsApp, and we'll arrange the next one.
Cooking on gas.
Cheers, mate. Okay, so that's it for this evening. As I say, I'm doing a podcast with Rich this week, all about homeschooling. He's got a lot of knowledge on it. I'll tell you what's happening with my boy and why I've made that decision. I think it's a decision that everybody should think of making, actually, because schools are just not safe places anymore. Schools are not teaching our kids what we want them to be taught, and they are indoctrinating our kids with what the state want them to be exposed to. Let's put it that way. So, but that's all for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy the weekend.